The NFL draft is over. We know where these rookies are going to be playing next year. So how do they rank going into the season for fantasy football? If you play Dynasty football, then you know exactly how important it is to value these rookies. But if you haven't tried Dynasty yet, what are you waiting for? It's fantasy football all year long, more trading, more action, and the rookie draft is the best part. But look, what if you're looking for a startup? We have the solution. You can actually join us. You can compete against both me and Chris in a Dynasty League. $100 prize to the winner, no buying required, and you get to learn the ins and outs of the game. Just join us on flockfantasy.com/endgame and you'll get access to our free course on how to build a Dynasty champion. All right, let's get to the rankings. Now we're looking at a typical non-Superflex league. If you were Superflex or 2QB, then obviously things would be different, but rookie rankings right off the NFL draft. Let's see, we got tier 1. I see one player. Is that right? Bijan Robinson, does he just own this tier by himself?
Absolutely. There's only one other decision here. You either draft Bijan or you trade out of the pick. You either get more picks or you trade for a proven stud or something like that. But really, you got the 101, you're taking Bijan.
It's crazy what we always say for years now about running back. So volatile, so overvalued, so risky. And yet here we are, one guy and only one guy deserves that number one pick. And look, I agree. It's him. He could be that generational running back that leads teams. You have to consider him the only choice at number 1. So in tier 2, we have the rest of the best. These are the guys who were first rounders for the most part. This top stud to every position. I'm going Zay Flowers at number 2. I think he had a perfect landing spot in Baltimore. We know Lamar Jackson's going to be the quarterback there. You're still high on him, but you have him behind 2 other receivers. Why do you think he doesn't belong in the top spot?
Yeah, my gut reaction, my instant reaction to the time he was drafted was that he's my number 1 wide receiver. But as I've thought about it some more, I still love the talent of JSN, and I feel like long-term, like Lockett maybe one more year in Seattle, and then he's gone. And then I feel like JSN will really take off, and I just think he's better than Flowers, so I'm buying the talent there. And then Addison, it comes down to, I just really love his landing spot. I think he can produce right out of the gate. Like week 1, he's in a great spot. He's got Justin Jefferson to take most of the pressure off of him. He's got no other real competition there. He's a great route technician. I think this is a great spot for him. One of the highest, volume passing offenses. So I just like him a little bit more right out of the gate. But I still do really like Flowers. And I think long-term Flowers may be better than Addison. But I'm just going to take the guy who I feel better about right now that I think could produce right away.
Yeah, it's really close. There really isn't much of a consensus, especially seeing as how none of these guys was really drafted a lot earlier than the other. They all just went back to back to back. I will say, I look at target share. I think Flowers has a chance to step in almost immediately and be the number 1 receiver there. With JSN, I don't know if he'll pass DK Metcalf at any point this year. He might be the number 3 guy in terms of target share initially. And then as far as Addison, he's never going to be the number 1 guy with Justin Jefferson there. He'll be solid. I like him, but I'm just going to, prefer the upside of Flowers a little bit. One guy I know you've been on all preseason, and I think he might have landed in the perfect spot, Kendre Miller in New Orleans. Is that what you were hoping for?
I mean, I don't know if it was the best possible spot, but it's a great spot, and I went into detail in it in the spot in the video that dropped yesterday about rookies I'm secretly high on. But Kendre Miller is an awesome running back, one of the best running backs in this class. He's got home run potential, but since he didn't do any athletic testing, no one realizes it. Alvin Kamara is probably going to be suspended, and he's old, and he's dusty. Jamal Williams is old and really just a touchdown guy. Kendre Miller could absolutely take over this backfield this year, and then unlike a guy like Tyler Algier, who got replaced by Bijan Robinson, he won't get replaced because he's really good, and he has a draft capital. So for me, I think he's got to be in this tier of guys I feel really, really good about.
I like him. I feel pretty good. I think maybe I'm still wait-and-see mode on Alvin Kamara. If he's suspended long-term, something happens here, then I think I have to move Miller up. I do think that job could be his, but I think maybe I'm waiting to see what happens, if anything, there. Because, got to figure his days might even be numbered in New Orleans completely. Another notable difference here in tier 2 between our rankings, I got 2 quarterbacks in there, you have none. Now, I've shifted my thinking as of lately, the last year or two, because man, it's just hard to find a good quarterback, as NFL teams know. But even in fantasy, I feel like, there's maybe not even 15, 16 guys I would feel comfortable with, at any point starting in my lineup on a regular basis. If either of these guys turn out to be true franchise quarterbacks, I feel pretty good about both of them. That would be CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. I think that's so important, even though we're not talking super flex league. I mean, just to have that one guy you can trust long term, and both these guys are super young. These franchises will be built around them. I feel that's become more valuable than having a guy who might be a wide receiver 2, or running back 2 at best, is what we're looking at after these guys. So I'm going to put these guys a little higher than I normally would have.
Yeah, and I agree with you on all of that. I just, there's still guys I like on the board as far as running backs and wide receivers. In a 1 QB league, I mean, unless I'm desperate at QB, I don't want to take a QB until the guys I like are gone. When I get to the guys where I'm like, yeah, I kind of like them, but they have this issue, but there's this problem with the landing spot, that's when I'll start considering the QB. So for me, there's just a lot of guys I still like. I'm not quite ready to take a QB yet, unless I'm absolutely desperate for a QB.
Now, kicking off tier 3, you've got maybe the top receiver here for Bryce Young in Carolina. That's Jonathan Mingo. Is he somebody who you've always been this high on, or did he climb up your board after the draft?
I mean, he certainly climbed up after the draft, but he's one of the guys that I did like. If he landed in the right spot, I thought he could be a successful big slot type of wide receiver. He went to a team that has Terrace Marshall is their slot receiver, and he's not very good. I think he can go right into that role. Hopefully that's how Carolina uses him. I'm going to bank on that being the case. But I think if it is, he's attached to Bryce Young. Maybe not going to come right out of the gates and just be an absolute stud, but you got to feel good about him long term. So I like the landing spot, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I might move him up at some point, but right now I still consider him a little bit rough. Might be kind of a project. Obviously, Carolina doesn't think so. They were high on him. And then an interesting spot here for Cedric Tillman. Man, all these Tennessee players fell farther than expected, but Tillman going to Cleveland, you like that landing spot, I'm assuming.
Oh, I love this landing spot, and I talked about him in the rookie video as well, and I talked about why. Look, Deshaun Watson, prior to last year, was a top 5 QB every year of his career outside of his rookie year. Last year, you got to throw that out the window. I think he bounces back to at least a top 10 quarterback this year, if not top 5. Tillman, an ex-wide receiver, he's going to replace DPJ, who's on the last year of his deal, by the way. I think they move on from DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, by the way, next year. And Tillman slots into that X role. Amari Cooper is going to be 29 this year. I think Tillman has a huge future and path in this offense. I love Tillman. I think people are way low on him right now.
And I think people will be surprised when they realize Cleveland isn't just going to be ground and pound and run the ball at first, second, third down. They got Deshaun Watson for a reason. They surrounded him now with weapons in the draft, traded for Elijah Moore. They're doing these things because they want to be able to have a versatile offense and pass the ball more. So don't be surprised if Tillman is one of the beneficiaries. Now, right where you have those 2 receivers, Mingo and Tillman, that's where I'm putting Kendre Miller. And again, I do feel like he might move up if we hear something definitive about Kamara, because that means that they went in the draft, the Saints, knowing Miller could be the guy, the Kamara replacement. But I just am the type, maybe a little too conservative with rankings sometimes, but I feel like I don't want to propel rookies too high too soon because, man, we get so excited after the draft and then reality sets in and not all these guys produce. So I like Miller, but I'm still going to be a little bit patient. And then down in the 4th tier, kind of in sync here with a lot of these guys. Disappointing, obviously, seeing Zach Charbonnet where he landed, but we got him there. We're pretty equivalent there on Tank and Marvin Mims. I'm putting Mingo and Tillman farther down than you quite a bit. Like I said, I do think Cleveland is going to pass the ball a fair amount, but I mean, with the fact that they already have Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, DPJ, I think it's going to take time for Tillman to really build into a role where he catches a ton of targets. So I don't feel like his ceiling maybe is quite as high. And then as far as Mingo, man, I just have a lot of questions about that offense. It's all brand new. The coaching staff, quarterback, receivers, all brand new. It's just going to take some time to gel. So I think his long-term potential is actually much higher than where I have him ranked. But again, I'm going to wait and see it first. And then possibly the biggest discrepancy we have, I had Jaden Reed all the way at top of tier 3. You've got him at the very bottom of tier 4. Surprising to me because, we just talked with Matt Harmon of Reception Perception, and that's one of his guys. He just flat out loves him, and I think the landing spot is great. So what is it that makes you worry?
It's Jordan Love, and it's not that I am not completely sold on Jordan Love, and I do like Jaden Reed, and I like this landing spot for him. But man, it's such an unknown with Jordan Love. What are we going to get? How much are the Packers even going to throw the ball? We know Christian Watson is already there. Look, this may come back to bite me. I may be way too low on Reed because I do like the player and I do like where he landed. I think he's a perfect complement to Christian Watson. I'm still a little on the fence about Jordan Love. Whereas Christian Watson is the type of guy, you just get the ball in his hands and he could take it to the house. I feel like Reed's a guy who's going to need the target volume and the target share, and I worry if that's going to be the case in this offense. But again, I could be way off on this by the time the season's over next year because I do really like the player.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fair criticism, and that Green Bay offense might just be really conservative. They got Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. Who knows how many targets he gets, but I think this just might follow the tradition of we always tend to overvalue Green Bay receivers and tight ends just because we're used to them having these elite quarterbacks, and they don't really have that anymore, at least not that we know of. But Matt Harmon is very high on him. I think that's good enough for me. I'm going to take a shot on him a little bit earlier. And by the way, if you missed that interview, had some great stuff with Matt Harmon of Reception Perception, check out that video right here to see what he thinks of Jaden Reed and all these rookie receivers.